about it. Who are we? We are the Data Coordination and AI Center. And I asked us to use the DCAIC as the term, but our grant was called BARD, just keeping with the barbecue theme of the project. We come from 4 different universities, institutions, covering ethics, training, data management, standards development, AI, ML, computation, and ethics and law. So we are here to support a lot of these programs. We're involved with many different Brain Initiative projects that involve other consortia like BICAN and Connects, like data archives like Dandy and BossDB, standards development like NWB, BIDS, and PsycDS. And in addition, other efforts like NITRIC, Repronym, the NIH Bridge to AI program, which focuses on voice technology, among other things, IEEE Brain, and Children Helping Science. We are advised by a scientific and technical advisory board who can help us with some of the elements of where we might get stuck and where we should not be going with our coordinating center. And we have an ethics advisory board that will help us given the diversity of topics that are going to be needed for this consortium, not just in this current phase of the next 2 years, but beyond.
Very nice.
We are here to help create a network of stakeholders, to find and refine standards for new sensors and models, provide AI ML infrastructure to process data and to train models, co-develop ethical guidelines and best practices. We expect things to change over time. As you go out into the world of collecting some of these data, we heard from both the study from Caleb, as well as some of the human studies, that there are ethical considerations on the animal and the human sides of these projects. And finally, I think we want to enhance all of us in this consortium through disseminating knowledge, resources, and providing training where appropriate. So we hope, and I'm not going to go into this into detail, help manage data submissions from various projects. That's a requirement of all the projects over here. We want to facilitate adoption and use of standards. We all might agree theoretically that standards are good, but the practical realities of getting new sensors, new time series, and other things into standards with the appropriate metadata does take time and effort. So we want to facilitate that. We want to help build trustworthy and fair data and models, right? Things that can be reused, models that you can trust to go well. Already today, I heard so many different projects that are perhaps have a very, very shared common sense of some types of pose estimation or other models, and building one robust foundational model, perhaps across many of these projects, would be a great outcome of something like this consortium. Ethics is a huge component of this, and we have an entire team, as you saw, dedicated to kind of thinking about ethics, thinking about data sharing. We'll have other people in the cameras that are acquiring things. How do we kind of represent people who have not consented to the study? How do we think about the mental privacy space, as was alluded to in Mariam's talk? And finally, we want these resources to be used and available both within the consortium and across the community. So we'll be doing a lot of coordination, kind of running meetings like this, but we would love to run meetings where we get people together into working groups and teams that can focus on some of these things. I think this was a great event for us to understand the complexity of many of the projects and what you folks are doing. We're very excited to work with you on this. But we also kind of want to make the consortium a place that defines the space of brain behavior research. And we want us to come together to be able to do that. So I'm going to end on this note. We want to do better team science, and all of your teams, I've heard all the fantastic teams, just knowing the number of people and the expertise that's present across the consortium, it's fantastic. How do we connect the dots across the teams? That's what we will try to do. To reflect the multi-scale, multi-species nature of extracting principles of neuroscience from this. For developing sensors, for considering ethics, and the huge data science components that comes with these realms of time series that will be generated by many of these projects. So I'll just pose a few things. As Brock mentioned, Ember is going to be built on Dabby and Dandy, things that already exist that should help with getting us off the ground very quickly. We're going to bring in modeling model benchmarking sites like BrainScore, which is focused on neuro AI applications, but the framework can still be used for modeling or benchmarking various different kinds of models across these data sets that will be coming online. On the ethical part, we've everybody knows about FAIR. Perhaps we also need to think about CARE in the context of many of the experiments that are being presented. And finally, I want to bring in a notion of a hackathon. A hackathon is not about people just coding things. It's about free exchange of ideas and thinking about ways to solve complex problems more easily. And it sounded like from today's presentation, there are lots of complex problems for us to solve as each of these projects get underway. So with that, I'm going to stop.